Deadpool is one of Marvel's most iconic characters, and love him or hate him, the Merc with the Mouth has finally made its way into VR as Meta's big exclusive title of 2025. With its promise of intense action, intense combat, and even more intense humor, it's been hyped as one of the biggest VR releases of 2025, but the $50 price tag, compared to previous Marvel titles, has left many fans skeptical. Does Deadpool VR continue the legacy of incredible Marvel VR games, or will this be another example of a AAA disaster? Join me as we experience what it's like to be inside Deadpool.
Hey, whoa, not that kind of inside.
And give Deadpool VR an honest review. Seriously, do I really need to explain this? For the 5 people out there who don't know who this handsome bastard is, Deadpool is the most unpredictable superhero, vigilante, guy with superpowers that you will ever meet. He's basically a mercenary who can't die thanks to his absurdly powerful regeneration, but also one of a few Marvel characters who is self-aware of their existence as a comic. He knows we're watching or playing as him, and this is something he abuses by breaking the fourth wall every other breath he takes.
Something tells me we're about to deliver a primetime action scene for all the viewers. Watch this, it's gonna be wicked cool.
He's appeared in comics, video games, and the iconic Ryan Reynolds films, but this is arguably the most ambitious video game yet, and given his R-rated humor, is a major swing out of left field for Meta. So with this game being Meta's big box title for 2025's holiday season, how does Deadpool hold up re-entering the spotlight in an unfamiliar medium? As per usual, I will be breaking this down into a few smaller categories, and this should go without saying, but alright, that should be ample time for you to pause if you don't want spoilers. Let's get right into it. The initial trailers for this game showcase a heavy emphasis on chaotic action and combat, and that's honestly a pretty good summary for most of the gameplay in this game. Now, granted, there are some puzzle elements and ways the game changes up how the combat flows, but for most of your playtime, it's combat from start to finish, and the way this game handles it is very well done. The combat is fast, intense, and full of many creative ways for you to power through dozens, if not hundreds of enemies. Deadpool comes equipped with dual swords, dual pistols, a wrist-mounted grenade, and a gravity grappler that is way too much fun to use.
Oh, look at you being flung around like an idiot.
Your swords can be thrown, used to deflect bullets, or, you know, used as swords. The guns are unconventional for VR standards, as rather than double gripping a single pistol like many VR players are accustomed to, you are encouraged to dual wield your pistols John Wick style for the entire game. The shooting feels incredible across all the guns, from your pistols to single-use firearms, and even though there's no advanced reloading, it's not really necessary for this fast style of combat. You can also dive kick directly into the face of enemies, which is already cool on its own, but doing enough damage to enemies via sword, gun, or other means will stun them, allowing for a dive kick insta-kill similar to Doom's insta-kill mechanic. This combat is pure arcade VR, with no advanced mechanics such as advanced reloading or physics-based interactions. Think super hot, not Bone Labor Blade and Sorcery. This allows for faster, more chaotic gameplay that lets you slaughter through hordes of enemies, and the simpler mechanics encourage you to be more creative with your kills, which the game rewards heavily. Combat is scored on creativity, style, and damage avoidance, which the game displays to you after each combat section. Given that you're literally in a game show being broadcast across the multiverse, you gotta make sure your audience is entertained. So better kills means more viewers, and more viewers means more money. Kills are separated into 4 different categories, ranging from your basic weenie kills with no flair, to legendary kills where you go out of your way to impress the audience. While it's not particularly difficult to do well in combat, the legendary kills do take some skill to achieve consistently, but this consistency can be made easier by filling up and activating your big money moment meter. Activating this will give you access to 1 of 4 weapons from other Marvel characters, and using them in combat feels so unbelievably badass. Like, seriously, imagine you're just blasting enemies as normal, and then you get access to Gambit's cards, Thor's hammer, Hawkeye's bow, or Star-Lord's blasters. Each of these weapons is immensely satisfying to use, and are accompanied by iconic and badass soundtracks that play into the big money moments. Just imagine throwing around Thor's hammer while You're the Best or Misery Business plays in the background. Trust me, it's incredible. Even taking damage in this game is cool. While the difficulty is very manageable for the vast majority of people, there will be times where you get overwhelmed by enemies, and you can lose your arms. This isn't a huge deal, because Deadpool's absurd healing factor lets you regrow a new one in a couple of seconds, but the fact that this even exists as a mechanic is so unbelievably cool. And you could even beat your enemies to death with the arm that just got cut off. I have no words. This healing factor is even taken a step further in some sections, as there are some scripted segments where the game will cut your body in half, or just straight up decapitate your head from your body. These scripted sections are kinda easy, but even still, this is pretty damn cool. All in all, the combat-oriented gameplay is very well done for an action-focused VR game, and while some may be disappointed by the lack of advanced VR mechanics that we're all used to, I think it works well for this style of fast-paced game. I've only encountered a few minor bugs during combat, just some visual anomalies, and some issues with grabbing weapons from my holsters, which could just be me being bad. The other gameplay mainly revolves around very simple, level-specific puzzles and level traversal. Traversing the levels requires some light parkour in the form of double jumping, while running, and using the gravity grappler to reach new heights. And the puzzles, while not super interesting, are quick and uniquely thematic to each level. The parkour and puzzles are fine, but on top of the combat-oriented gameplay, the game puts an emphasis on immersing you in the theming of each level, which it nails almost perfectly. Most superhero games, or action games in general, play out very similarly to one another. The level design is usually linear, with maybe a few secrets for you to find, and Deadpool VR follows its gameplay loop to a T, with a few twists here and there to shake things up a little bit. To give a bit of background, Deadpool is abducted in the middle of one of his missions for S.H.I.E.L.D. by this interdimensional game show host named Mojo. The majority of the campaign is Mojo sending Deadpool to acquire more talent in the form of lesser-known Marvel villains, each level being appropriately themed for a said villain. But he's also required to compete in Mojo's game show in between these missions, which honestly is an incredibly smart move on Mojo's part because Deadpool is incredible for ratings. The retrieval missions are your standard action level, following a linear path from point A to point B with a lot of combat section and some puzzles sprinkled in along the way. Each one centers around reaching, defeating, and ultimately capturing a villain so they can compete alongside you in Mojo's game show. Flag Smasher's level serves as a nice intro to the game. It's set on an airship before Deadpool gets kidnapped by Mojo, and while Flag Smasher manages to escape Mojo's grasp, it doesn't necessarily mean he's safe from Deadpool. It's ultimately just a fun level that introduces us to the mechanics of the game and our first taste of combat and Deadpool. Lady Deathstrike's level is set in a very beautiful area of Japan and has some very intense combat sections that can fuck you up if you are not careful. While the majority of the level is beautiful and the combat is fun, there's a series of 4 back-to-back fetch quests that absolutely kill the pacing of this level. Long conversations, slow delivery, some weird sections, it just drags. The rest of the level is fine, but for these sections, I'd love to just... Mephisto's level is my favorite of the bunch for a multitude of reasons. It's set in a glamorous Las Vegas casino themed after hell because, you know, Mephisto is short for Mephistopheles. Wow. And also because we're accompanied by one of the most badass Marvel characters ever created. The rivalry between Deadpool and Ghost Rider leading up to Mephisto's confrontation and the subsequent team up to take him down is extremely well done. And if that wasn't enough, you get to ride on Ghost Rider's bike while shooting Hellfire pistols. I do not care how scripted this segment is, it is so fucking cool. Ultima's level is my favorite thematically, but unfortunately, it's probably my least favorite gameplay-wise. It's set in space on a Nova Corps spaceship invaded by a foreign lifeform, think Guardians of the Galaxy meets Alien, with a sentient AI robot controlling everything. It's your standard linear level with seemingly no new gameplay mechanics until the very end, where your mind is transported to some sort of cyberspace where you fight Ultimo twice. Admittedly, the visuals are extremely cool, and I'm a sucker for anything sci-fi, but the level is very repetitive, and the cyberspace gameplays don't add much outside of being able to blast your enemies with cool virtual blasters. Thankfully, Omega Red's level ends this section with a bang, letting you drive a literal mini tank and using it to blast your way through the majority of the level. While each of these levels is insanely cool and gives you a lot to do, the boss fights are, unfortunately, the weaker points of each level, because they all kind of feel the same. You mostly have freedom of control throughout each fight, but once you get the boss below a certain threshold, you're faced with a few quick time events that, while cinematic and cool, kill any sort of flow you may have had, and these happen multiple times during each fight. I don't mind them personally because I love epic and cool moments, but this is a pretty big concern for those who may find this mechanic irritating. In between each of these missions to retrieve a new villain, you partake in Mojo's game show in a series of battle arenas. Each of these levels consists of 3 minigames each, either teaming up with another Deadpool variant against robots, or going solo in classic minigames with a Deadpool twist. They're fun and exhilarating on a first playthrough, but they honestly lack any form of replay value since they play identically every single time. I wouldn't call them filler levels because they do feel thought out and well designed, but when the alternative is blasting your way through waves of enemies while blasting cool music using Star-Lord's pistols, their appeal quickly becomes a little less interesting. Hell, even Deadpool gets tired of these after the second one.
You are required to compete in the battle arena once more.
What? I don't wanna. I mean, it was kinda cool, but I don't wanna.
The only exception to this is the final set of arenas where you compete against the previous villains you've captured, but even still, most of them share the same problem of having little replay value. While these arena levels are cool and do provide new things to mess around with, they have the unfortunate drawback of being very performance heavy. While capturing footage of each arena, my headset started making this weird high-pitched error noise that I've never heard before. While the gameplay was still relatively smooth, it definitely saw a performance hit while these sounds were occurring. Now, to be fair, my Quest 3 is from launch, so this could be just older hardware struggling with the game while recording. I'm not 100% sure, I'm just sharing my experience, and I haven't seen anything about this anywhere else online. That being said though, these arenas scream multiplayer potential, and it feels like they were designed with a multiplayer arena shooter in mind. The foundation is there. The game modes, the arenas, even randomized and overpowered weapons. If this game ever receives updates, I would honestly love to see them take a crack at doing online PvP. I don't care if it's unbalanced, just let me shoot Deadpools that aren't bots. In short, the campaign is pretty damn fun for what it is. It's your standard linear level superhero game with a few arena game modes thrown in to spice things up from time to time. While it's not winning any awards anytime soon, it's still a fun game, and the amount of content delivers a 10 to 12 hour campaign with some post-game content for completionists, which is definitely more than some games are providing, not naming names here. However, so far, I've only discussed the gameplay of this game, and if I were to end this video without discussing how this fourth wall breaking maniac is connected to the story, I'd be committing a crime against Marvel Jesus himself. Like I've mentioned, the story mainly takes place in a subdimension called Mojo World, where Deadpool has been kidnapped by this thing named Mojo to capture Marvel baddies and compete in his arena. Every one of his actions is being broadcast on Mojo's show, which is not only shown in the fans you accumulate, but in the chat box that is displayed every time you complete a fight. Deadpool is basically an interdimensional Twitch streamer, and his insane killing sprees are how he farms his tier 3 subs.
Among other ways because he's Deadpool.
The supporting cast of this game is very well done, and while the characters aren't super memorable, they're pretty standard for an arcadey superhero action game. It's very clear that the story is kind of meant to take a backseat role to the action, gameplay, and, well, Deadpool. But for a type of game like this, I'm not mad about it. My only issue is that Spiral's voice delivery feels very monotone compared to the expressive cast around her. It lacks that sort of punch that every other character has, and since she's the main voice you're hearing for the entire game, second only to Deadpool, it's very noticeable. Most of the story itself revolves around Deadpool and his interactions with the other characters. Rather than being voiced by Ryan Reynolds, as everyone expected, he's voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, which I'd argue was absolutely the best possible choice for an alternative voice actor. Deadpool's character is portrayed perfectly in this game, and each level you play through is full of his witty, fourth wall breaking, and often very adult humor. If you're a fan of Deadpool, you will not be disappointed by how he's portrayed in this game, as he is the game. He's fully aware of the fact that he's in a video game, you're controlling him, and that he has a level of control that no other character does. I mean, hell, he literally makes up the fact that he used to date Lady Deathstrike in Ninja Academy as a gag, and she just goes with it, treating him like a bitter ex. And the best part of this interaction is, I genuinely think Deadpool also gaslit himself into thinking he and Lady Deathstrike used to be lovers. Seriously, I can't tell if he's joking or not at some points. He's so authentically Deadpool, and that's either really good or really bad for you, depending on how much you enjoy his character. Personally, I loved listening to Deadpool's witty banter, and I couldn't get enough of it. But if you aren't super familiar with his character, he can get annoying pretty quickly. He also throws in a lot of modern day references, which I was able to catch and had a genuinely good laugh at. Most of them are just Deadpool making fun of Marvel and Disney as a whole, but there are some references to other popular games and pop culture, like when he references Baldur's Gate 3 during Omega Red's mission, and how you can secretly romance Minthara along with doing other things to your companions. They might make some who don't get these references feel isolated, but realistically, that's only a very small portion of the potential player base, as gamers and VR users as a whole generally tend to be more familiar with pop culture and other games. Ultimately, if you're not here for Deadpool and how chaotic he can be, you're missing out on a big part of this game. As I've mentioned, the story and other characters take a backseat role to let Deadpool shine. Beyond the story and campaign, there's no real post-game. only the ability to replay through each level, but that's perfectly fine given how much content this game actually gives you to play through. And as a cherry on top, several ways for you to customize your experience as you replay through the game. As I've mentioned in the combat section, doing well in combat nets you more viewers, which in turn makes you filthy rich. But it's not exactly real money, it's Mojo's cheap knockoff version of money. So what can you even do with it? Well, look no further than Major Domo's shop of commodities and deadly weaponry, as the customization in this game is taken to another level. Every part of your arsenal is customizable, whether it be changing your guns to be gold-plated 50 caliber Desert Eagle pistoleros. That is a long thing to say. Or changing your swords to somehow be even flashier than Deadpool. You've got a wide variety of skins to choose from. It's not even just cosmetic changes either. You have access to a multitude of alternative weapons that behave similarly to your originals, but have additional functionality. You can turn your guns into burst SMGs, shotguns, flamethrowers, and a couple other options. And the alternative swords can give you extra damage, faster throwing, or a boomerang effect where they return to you quicker. This already opens up a ton of ways for you to play around with your arsenal and helps keep the gameplay loop interesting as you try new things. However, this customization goes beyond new gameplay, as the biggest thing you can customize is Deadpool himself. Remember how I mentioned the Deadpool variants appearing in Mojo's arena? Well, you can unlock and play as these variants with completely new modes and voice lines. And while it really doesn't change any of the core gameplay, each variant has their own voice actor and unique personality that makes replaying each level worth it just to hear the new interactions they have with the rest of the game. My personal favorite of the bunch is Lady Deadpool, as she is somehow even more unhinged than the original Deadpool is.
Want to smash your frontal cortex into a few of my bullets? You are aware that in the 21st century, to smash means to have sex with. You should feel it in the nasal cavity first. This is normal.
Plus, each variant unlocks secret side areas in each level, adding extra replayability. These side areas are just arcadey levels with a crap ton of enemies for you to shoot at, but they're still a ton of fun to play through, and give the game some form of replay value, despite the main levels not changing at all. This is a huge amount of customization for a single player VR game. And in an industry where AAA companies will easily charge you $20 to $50 for a single skin, the fact that all these are unlockable by just playing the game is extremely nice. And is a very nice way for you to express yourself or change up your playstyle in cool and interesting ways. Now we come back to the question of the game's price and whether the high price tag, compared to the majority of other VR games, is justified. From my personal experience, I had a ton of fun with this game, and outside the optimization issues with the arena levels, I didn't find many issues with the game itself. The combat is fast and fun, the story is passable, the customization is expansive, and Deadpool feels like Deadpool. There's no question in my mind that this is a Deadpool game, and in my opinion, it is the best Deadpool game currently on the market. But that $50 price tag is definitely high, and puts it alongside Batman Arkham Shadow and Asgard's Wrath 2. It doesn't have the same amount of content as Asgard's Wrath 2, that game is massive, but it matches Batman's 10 to 12 hour campaign with comparable replay value, so I'd argue the price is justified. Whether or not this game is worth it to you ultimately comes down to what you're looking to get out of this game. If you're a fan of fast and intense combat that makes you feel awesome, or just a fan of Deadpool, I'd say this game is worth playing if you're just looking for a good time. But if you're looking for more advanced VR mechanics, aren't accustomed to fast VR gameplay, or find Deadpool really annoying, you should probably skip out on this one, as this game probably isn't for you. That last part is especially critical because he does not shut up at any point during this game. For me though, absolutely worth it. I'm a huge Deadpool fan, and this delivered exactly the chaotic VR experience that I wanted. But what do you all think? Have you played Deadpool VR? Do you think it's worth the price? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, do the subscribe thing, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all in the next video. Excuse me. Have a good night, y'all.